Coach Jimmy Lynam, NBC Sports Philadelphia, will now join us to break down that move, what the Celtics might counter with, and do we see the Philadelphia 76ers back at home on Friday night? We'll dive into all that and more with Jimmy Lynam here on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN. Hey, Coach, welcome back.
Hey, Mike, how you doing?
Doing well. Obviously, McConnell was a big change last night. That's a big adjustment. Why was that adjustment such a big deal last night that allowed the Sixers to pull that game out?
Well, I think most would be in agreement with you that he certainly was at least a huge factor. I'll go to the post game when both Embiid and Simmons, sitting side by side, began their respective comments with kudos for TJ for leading the Sixer team to victory. So I think we have to say it was a significant and very successful maneuver on the part of Brett Brown. And before we address what happened and why it made sense, I think you got to pat Brett Brown on the back. He's been taking a lot of heat, as you well know, in this series. And that move took some courage, let me tell you. Because if the Sixers don't win that game, it's kind of just the seeds of even more criticism. Well, why not Markelle Fultz, bop, 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 on and on. So I can't give Brett enough credit, number one, and obviously TJ right there on the top shelf with him. And I think Brett's logic was really terrific. He said that after Game 3, that for a team to pull out of a 0-3 hole, and nobody's ever done it, 29 teams, I think, have been in the hole and never been able to win. He said he didn't think it was for lack of talent, but for lack of spirit. And he said over the ensuing 48 hours, as he spoke to his coaches, he said, if we need spirit, let's put our spirit guy in at the top of the game, if that's what we think is the most essential element if we're going to have a chance to move forward. So he followed his heart and his mind, and the rest is history.
So, Coach, I guess the follow-up then is, why didn't they make the move sooner after he saw TJ's contributions in Game 2?
Yeah, that's a fair question. He played in Game 3. He just didn't play anywhere near the minutes that he played in this game, Game 4 last night. You could bring that up. But in direct answer, I'll tell you, because you're not in an 0-3 hole. In other words, you don't feel as desperate as you when you hit. And I've been in this situation. When you are at that point, you're ready to pull out all stops and you try to assess what is needed. And Brett Brown had his finger incredibly accurate, right on the pulse. What is needed? We have to be sure to give ourselves the best chance. We have to play with emotion, with commitment, with heart, with desperation, and you're defining the way TJ plays. So to Brett, it became a no-brainer, given the hole they were in.
How, in your mind, did TJ help elevate Ben's game last night?
Well, I think when you take Ben off the ball, it's ironic you asked that question. I had a conversation with Sonny Hill, longtime Philadelphia basketball guru and, knows the NBA inside out. And one of the things he said is that because Boston was doing a good job at stopping one aspect or limiting one aspect of Ben's play, namely, dribble penetration. Not that he can't penetrate still, but he's not getting as much. Sonny said he'd like to see Ben, take another bag or take another club out of his bag, so to speak. And his point was that Ben can do a lot of things. He can cut through as a huge guy and, catch a pass and just dunk over people. He can post you. He can get on the offensive board. So I think, to answer your question, taking Ben off the ball and giving it to TJ a whole lot more, it's not like Ben didn't handle it, but nowhere near as much as he has been. So as a result, it freed Ben up to do a lot of these other things. He did damage in different ways. And I made the comment post-game, how ironic. There's nobody. I didn't see him one article a day and banging the drum that Ben Simmons had a double-double. No big deal. And the reason you didn't see it, is because Ben Simmons has raised the bar so high that if he doesn't have a triple-double, it's like not that big a thing.
Well, Coach, Brett Brown said, I need to do a better job of making my stars be stars. And the way he made Ben Simmons a star was by making him a secondary player almost. You're right. I just said before he came on, he had 19 points and 13 rebounds, but he's not the story. But you know what? Most nights during the regular season, 19 points, 13 rebounds, he was the star. And Brown took the spotlight off him to get his star back.
That's an interesting observation. I like that, and I think there's a lot of truth to it. But I'll ask it to you this way now, a follow-up question back to you, Mike. Then who was the star last night?
Great question. I mean, realistically, how about Dario getting no love?
25 points.
Okay. All right. I don't know that if you had asked me who was the star, I would have come up with Dario, but he's as likely a guy as anybody. I would say it came back to the strength of this team. And on your show earlier in the week, or the end of last week, whatever, I had said to you, I love Joel Embiid posting up, but we're getting a little too much of that. That's not who this team is. Give a guy a ball, get out of his road, let him beat down his man. No, that's not who they are all year long. That's not what made them as good as they were at the end of the season and in the Miami series. I think they took a step back, trying to be who they've been. They got a lot of good basketball players, and last night they had tremendous balance. And as you said, Dario is as good a candidate as anybody for a guy who was the star.
It's funny because two things. One, you're Embiid. It's funny you said it because a lot of people say, get your butt down in the paint. And I said, that's not who this guy is. He's a unique talent. We want him to be something that all these other guys are. And you know what? He's not these other guys. He's unique. He can do multiple things. You don't just put him there. And you know what they did in Game 3? They tried to make him the post-up center. They stuck his ass down there in the block. He shot the ball 26 times, only made 10. You know why? He doesn't have the moves and the skill set yet to be a featured guy in the low block.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with you. And the only reason I'm kind of a little bit hesitant, I think the mask is a big deal. All you have to do is, not that one would, but get one and put it on and then throw a visor in front of your eyes on the outside of it. I mean, it's such a cumbersome thing. And just knowing what players who I've coached in the past, the way they've responded to it. They hate it. It really encumbers their peripheral vision. There's no doubt in my mind the Al Horford steal at the end of Game 3 was a big factor of Joel not having any peripheral vision to see Horford. Yes, he knew he was coming and fell. It's not just saying he's blinded on his right side to a certain degree. So I have to say, and I hear you, I certainly would agree with you that that's the way I like to see him play, use his full repertoire of skills. But I still kind of float back to that game back early in the season out in Los Angeles when he gave the Lakers like 46, and he looked like the second coming of Chamberlain.
I heard you say on the postgame a couple of nights ago that they have really fixated that Ben Simmons is the point guard. Did Brett Brown move off of that last night?
I think he did a little bit. I think you have to say that, yes. And, again, I don't want to be making rash judgments, but I, like you, I watched the game, and so we're certainly welcome to make observations. I think where I am right now, and, things as this is in life, you have an idea or a sense of something, and then as, you see more information is available to you, you're allowed to reassess.
True.
And I would say that right now that Ben has to, if you're going to give this guy the ball and he's going to have it for 40 minutes as a point guard, then he's got to be able to tweak something about his game. Can he be, come on, he got a tremendous season playing essentially as the point, period. But is that, let me just say, is that style of play good enough in playoff basketball, which is a bit of a different animal, to lead you to an NBA title? I think that is the question at this point in time.
I would have, you asked me before who was the star, and I said Dario. I do want to say I thought the defense last night, I think their defense has let them down in this series, and I thought their defense was significantly better, and I thought that was maybe the star.
All right, 100% agreement. And let me ask you, why do you think that was the case?
I think McConnell was much better on the ball than Covington was lost on those screens. And
bingo.
They were trapping at the top of the key, getting the ball out of Rozier's hands. The ball would go to Horford, and they were making Horford make a decision to either try to go by Embiid or pass out. But the fact that McConnell was reading that screen way better than Covington.
Yeah, see, here's the thing that where I know that people understand that McConnell is really a gritty, feisty guy. He picks up the whole building. He brings energy to the team, and the whole building gets into the game. But you are so short-selling him if you stop there. I just had a conversation this morning with a guy who was a pretty good Sixer player, in fact played for me, got a championship ring. His name is Maurice Cheeks. And I said to Cheeks,
he's a Hall of Famer, too, by the way. Don't sell him short.
Thank you. Just got inducted, right, or got voted in. We'll be inducted in September. But I said to Cheeks, I said, now, Mo, you might get pissed at me for saying this, but I'm going to tell you, I get annoyed because TJ doesn't get the credit he deserves. I said, I'm going to tell you who I compare him to defensively. And Cheeks started laughing because he knew where I was going. He is Maurice Cheeks defensively. That's who he is. Cheeks, that's what put Cheeks in this league, and one of the reasons that Cheeks is in the Hall of Fame. And if I ask you, you tell me who McConnell reminds you of defensively. That's how good he is at the defensive end. You think it was a mistake that all of a sudden Terry Rozier decided to revert and score 2 field goals instead of 26 points? And when TJ can guard a guy like that, what it does, it then frees up a Simmons or Rob Covington to go and guard on the wings, where the Sixers were getting killed in the first 3 games by this supposed, where's all this Boston athleticism I heard about? What does it do, vanish in the tunnel coming to the court?
Coach Jim Lynam with us, NBC Sports Philadelphia, did not vanish. There certainly was a great effort last night from TJ McConnell. I love the reference to Maurice Cheeks, too. All those steals Maurice Cheeks had, the energy he played with on the defensive end of the floor. Coach, you talked to, and you and Mike both mentioned the name Robert Covington a little bit. That's sort of the flip side of the storyline from last night. So Robert Covington has to come off the bench. He plays 19 minutes. His shooting was not good, 1 for 7 overall, 1 for 5 from three-point land. My question to you is, sending him just to the bench, does this lose him for the series, or do you see some sort of resurgence out of Robert Covington?
Well, you would certainly hope there's a resurgence. But quite frankly, if you have somebody else you can give time to who's going to be productive, so be it. I love the way Covington, somebody wrote in the Philly paper this morning that the performance of the night was Robert Covington's in the locker room post-game as he praised TJ up and down. Covington is beyond a good guy. Now it's up to Covington, the player, to respond to this situation, and we'll see if he does or not.
Coach, obviously they got a mountain to climb. You said you've been in this before, and it's never happened. I'll give you this number to chew on. Teams are 0-129, but if the Sixers win, it'd be 1 for 130, which would be 0.76% of the times that teams would win in this situation. There's a lot of synergy with these numbers here, 76. You see that? But is this team, many people thought they were the better team. They had more talent. Then Boston, the sum of the parts seemed to be coming together. And people said the Sixers just didn't have the experience. Have they gained enough experience through these couple of games that they now have their sea legs under them and can get on a run here?
Yeah, that's a fair observation, I think, by people, and I can't answer that. I think that they certainly are learning. They've taken some things, as has Brett Brown, with the insertion of TJ. So, yeah, we'll find out tomorrow night. Obviously, this is a huge game and opportunity.
Have you ever had a player that you hesitated to use because for whatever reason, and he was better than maybe you thought he was when he went someplace else? How come a team or a coach is hesitant to use McConnell more? Is it just like they don't believe in him, or He's just so overshadowed by such great talent around him. Have you ever been in that situation where you had a guy that maybe was better than you gave him credit for? Because that's got to be tough.
I'm sure. Yeah, it's a very good point. I'm sure I have. I'm not sure, that readily somebody comes to mind, but I've been the recipient. Like one of my, when I had my best teams with Barkley, one of my top 6 players was a fellow by the name of Ron Anderson. Like a 14-point scorer, really, really good offensive player. And we got him in a trade I didn't want to make for a guy who was going to be like a third guard who we had drafted. And the trade was from my mentor, Jack Ramsey, had Ron Anderson when Ramsey was the Indiana Pacer coach. And he traded Anderson to us. And Anderson never got off the bench for Indiana. And he became my 6th man. So it happens to, come on, Jack Ramsey is a Hall of Fame coach who won championships and as close to me as anybody on planet Earth. But, yeah, sure, it happens. And I'm going to say something in the case of TJ. And I think the last thing you said was, being overshadowed by, like, other talent in the building. And that very well could be this case. And when TJ gets into the game, because he's playing with such star-powered players, he just tries to, like, do his thing, which is guard the ball, which he does great. But I'm going to tell you something. TJ, and you got a glimpse of it last night. From the day he got here, the statement I'm going to make is true. Was he a great finisher? No. I'd call him a decent finisher now. He's improved at that. What could he shoot? Not a lick when he got here. That's improved. I would call him a marginal shooter right now. However, the statement I'm going to make, when it comes to penetrating a ball, TJ, from the moment he arrived, could drive by anybody in front of him. Now, because he doesn't score and make a great pass, nobody sees it. But when it comes to penetration, I'm going to give you a name. I'll give you 2 names. Think John Stockton and think Steve Nash.
Wow.
Correct. Because the first thought of penetration is go by the guy in front of you. TJ does it like it's child's play.
Unbelievable stuff here from Coach Jimmy Lynam. Let me ask you this question then. You mentioned Covington, and Allie handled it well. Does the team go to Brown and say, Coach, what about playing TJ more or starting? Or does Brown come up with that all his own?
Yeah, you guys got a bevy of great questions today, boy. I'm not sure.
I mean, does Barkley come to you and say, Coach?
Oh, no, what? Oh, that players do that. I mean, especially your top guys. No, the 8th man's not going to come to you and
right.
have that conversation. No, but Joel Embiid, Ben Simmons, TJ Redick, veteran high-level players. Now, whether that took place, my guess is, and it's only a guess, is that this was from Brett's, like, the recesses of his mind, after Game 3, trust me, if he walked out of the building, like, somewhere between 11 and 12,
right.
He got home at, like, 12:43, the head hit the pillow, like, when the sun came up, or was about to, and he was back in the car an hour later heading back to the building. He had plenty of time to think about, like, where are we right now and what can we do about our play. So I think it was something that was hatched by Brett Brown, and then obviously he threw it by, and it's probably, I can picture that group, and it's a big group of guys probably in the room, and it's about as pluses and minuses. And if it were me and I come up with it, I would go so far as say, and I realize there's a downside here for me personally, and I would say it just like that. For me personally, and for a lot of these players, for me, my future dealings with them, if this blows up in our face. So you have to give it a lot of thought.
Right, and that goes back to Game 2 where people said you can't not go back to Ben because you could fracture that relationship.
Well, and I told you I totally agreed with that. But I told you I thought that people were asking the wrong question. You go back to Ben. Me, of course you go back to Ben. He's your guy. He's going to be your guy for the next decade. The real question should have been, can you go back with Ben and leave TJ? And my answer to that was yes, you can, and I think I would have.
Jimmy, I was talking to Mike earlier in the show about the path that TJ McConnell took, and we took a walk down memory lane for when he was signed. And by the way, this might be the last brilliant thing ever done by Sam Hinkie when he was the GM, signing him, the undrafted McConnell, the day after the 2015 draft. He was in competition with 5 other guards for 3 roster spots. I mean, where he had Tony Roten, Kendall Marshall, Pierre Jackson, Isaiah Cannon, and Scotty Wilbekin, right? I mean, those guys now, where are those guys now?
I still contend they're missing Tony Roten's offense.
Yeah, no, a great point again. And I'll tell you, at the end of that summer, after they had that bevy of point guards play in the summer league,
right,
I bumped Brett Brown in the Philly airport at 6 in the morning. We took a red-eye back from Las Vegas and happened to be on the same flight that Brett was with his son. And we were waiting for our bag and just shooting the breeze. And I had talked to him off and on in Las Vegas during the week. But he asked me, he said, let me just ask you, who among these point guards? And I said, I'll be honest with you. I said, and I went like with my hand, like you flip a coin. High in the air, flip a coin. I said, for me, flip it. I said, there's things I like. You just mentioned Scotty, whatever. That's the kid from Florida, Webekin or
Wilbekin, yeah.
Yeah, and I liked a couple of things about him, but there was nobody that kind of jumped above the rest of the pack. I actually said, if it were me right now, I'd pick Ish Smith over all of them. And the reason, not that I think Ish Smith is so much better, but Ish Smith did show an ability to unleash maybe the only offensive thing that Nerlens Noel was outstanding at, namely going after lobs. You run a lot of pick and roll and send Nerlens to the basket. He's going to catch a lot of balls way up there, and he's going to dunk them all.
I think it should be an interesting Game 5. How does Brad Stevens now adjust to McConnell being inserted into the lineup?
Well, I would say they'll certainly respect McConnell more. I don't think he'll get as many scoring opportunities off the drive as you saw. I mean, he had 9 field goals on 12 shots. I mean, I have a little cynic in me, and I want to say, yeah, boy, did he bring hustle. Dude, he also brought 9 for 12 shooting. Are you out of your mind? I mean, come on, please. So I think they'll try to limit that, and certainly with tension to it, I think they can. But I think the fact that TJ, with the defensive pressure and harassment of Terry Rozier, that's not going away. That'll continue to be a factor. What Boston will do in terms of a tactical change, they'll be ready for the trapping of the pick and roll. And as Kevin McHale aptly stated during the broadcast, when you have a ball and you're running pick and roll and the other team traps you, they commit 2 to the ball. You as the ball handler now have one job. Get the ball out of the trap as quickly and efficiently as you can. Why? Because now it doesn't matter where you pass it. Pass it to his shirt the same color as you. That's all you have to do. And once you do that, it enables 4 guys to play against 3 guys.
Yeah.
Advantage, obviously, the 4.
Well, we need an extension of this series so we can have more conversations like this.
More
Coach.
Jim Lynam.
Wednesday night.
No, I appreciate that, but I mean, hey, it's already been a really enjoyable, entertaining series in so many ways. I mean, what you guys in your business say storylines. This thing has more storylines than Carter's Got Bills. And how about if they can win Game 5? I mean, the possibility. I mean it. I do have some fan in me. As when you coach, for as long as I have over the years, it beats a lot of the fan out of you.
Yeah.
And I really consider myself more of a football fan at this point in my life than basketball. But this team, and I mean this honestly, has rejuvenated my fan spirit, and this series has taken it to another level. And if I could possibly be sitting in front of a TV set, getting ready to watch a tip of Game 7 in Boston, where the Celtics have won the first 3 to put you on death's doorstep, and you win the next 3 with a chance to set history in the Boston Garden against the Celtics. When I say that's as good as it gets, I mean it to the depth of my being.
Great stuff. And by the way, I got to sit next to your daughter the other day and talk basketball. This has been a double treat. I'm getting it from both sides now.
Yeah. Pete texted me and told me that. Yeah, how about it?
Yeah,
she goes to all the games. You know, she does. She's like the Sixer insider for a couple of different outlets.
Yeah.
You know, for a suburban newspaper here, a radio station. So, oh yeah, she's not going anywhere.
We had a good basketball conversation in that on that what day was that? Saturday. So it was a lot of fun, and of course having you here, Coach. We appreciate the time as always. And Wednesday night, NBC Sports Philadelphia pregame coverage. I guess what 7:00.
8:00 game, 7:00 pregame. Correct. Yep.
We will see you on the boob tube there, Coach.
All right, guys. My pleasure. Thank you.